ain't gonna lie, it ain't looking pretty. I mean, things are tight. People are concerned. However, we don't need to give up. What we need to do is rally together, and everyone needs to be a sales professional in your organization. And on today's episode, my guest Ted is going to let you know exactly a playbook, a play that you can take and apply, how you can implement this strategy so that everyone on your team can start to sell like they should. You're going to love it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I come with the enthusiasm and the excitement because I just love the content. I love what our guests are sharing. And today, my friends, Ted Blosser, he's going to share with you some things that, man, stuff's like amazing. Ted is a CEO and co-founder of a company. You probably heard of him, called WorkRamp. You can find their details down in the show notes. But today, Ted and I are going to discuss what he thinks that sales organizations, sales reps should be doing right now, especially the whole organization, to make sure that everyone is selling, whether it's coming from the BDRs, from the AEs, from the marketing team, to the enablement team, to the RevOps, to like everyone that's in the customer success team. Like everyone that's a part of your organization right now should be in the game of selling, like plain and simple. And he's going to break down what you can do to understand this and to do it in your org, and things that you could take back to your team and your role here as a BDR or as an AE, the things that you need to do and understand. Listen, this was a fun topic. These are things that I've been able to take and apply to our organization that we're doing, but also things that I've done in other organizations. So I vow for the things that you're hearing here. Some of the concept, I can't take credit for all this stuff. Ted's a genius. Check out some of the cool things they're doing as well. You can find all the information down below about WorkRamp. If you are looking for ways to be able to generate at least 3 appointments per week, 3 extra appointments, go ahead and connect with our website, thesalesevangelist.com, or go in the show notes. We have a program that's specifically utilizing LinkedIn and teaching sellers how they can do that without spamming nobody. Find all the details in the show notes. As always, you know, I'm here to bring value to you, and today Ted is going to break that down for you. Listen for those things that he shared, those different departments. What he shared about the sales professionals and BDRs were mind-blowing to me because it was a given that it should be selling. But what he deep dive in was fascinating. Listen to it and check it out. Ted, welcome to the show.
Donald, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, man, you know it. You know I'm excited for this one, too. I'm pumped. I bragged about you a little bit in a teaser. So if you don't mind taking a minute and just telling us a little bit more about what you do, man.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of WorkRamp. WorkRamp is an all-in-one LMS. We're building what we call the Learning Cloud. We help companies train their employees, but also educate their customers and partners.
Love it. Love it. And we're going to link back to that in the show notes because you guys have, I think you guys have some cool stuff that you probably can share to our community as well. So folks, you go ahead and connect with Ted and some of the cool things that we have down in the show notes. I guarantee you, if you continue to listen to the episode, you're going to be even more convinced why you should connect with him. So with that, Ted, the topic we're going to focus on today is everyone is a seller in this fiscal year. Like no matter who you are, no matter where you are on the gamut, like you need to be selling. You and I had a conversation about this a little bit ago, but why do you feel this is a case right now?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, this is a pretty timely topic. Even this morning, I wrote this LinkedIn post where when you think about the startup days, like early on when we were founded in 2015, it's all about creating momentum out of nothing. Literally, a startup is like you're literally starting with nothing, and you have to create momentum on your own. So if you don't have leads, you have to go get them. If you don't have any brand, you have to go build it. If you don't have any PMs, your engineers have to be their own PMs, right? And what's interesting is now you fast forward to a downturn. And in a downturn, everyone slows down, right? No matter what company you are, whether you're Salesforce who just experienced those layoffs, you saw their massive 66% slowdown in the last quarter. It's all about generating momentum again. And the story I loved is I remember reading the Elon Musk biography back in the day. Whether you love or hate Elon Musk, there's this great story where when Tesla was slowing down and almost wasn't going to make it, and this was in the early days of Tesla, they made everyone get on the phones and start selling Tesla vehicles to the public. And I think there's a really good analogy to that in B2B is that in today's environment, everybody that touches a customer or is even close to a customer should be a seller. And so we can dive into that in more detail, what that means, but that's more the mindset I think a lot of B2B companies need to have heading into this downturn is everyone should always, ABS, always be selling, but that's not just your AEs, that's everybody within the company.
So let's talk about that. The tip of the spear. There's three main areas that you mentioned that we kind of talked about and we hit up on at the beginning of the episode. The first one was around BDR. Do you mind telling us what those three are, and then we'll take some time and dive into each of them?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of like to break it up into three key areas, right? One is, I think the most traditional is your sales team, obviously. You have your AEs and your BDRs. That's kind of one bucket. And we could talk about that. That's literally in their description. But the big thing to change is the mindset there. I think in the heyday of the market, which let's call it the last 3 years, it was a lot about, hey, this demand was coming to you, or it's very easy to go outbound to this demand. And so the big mindset shift on the sales bucket there, both with BDRs and AEs, is on the BDR side, getting very creative on how to now get to clients in this very saturated market. On the AE side is changing the mentality that, hey, the puck is not going to come to you anymore. You need to also go outbound. So that's kind of bucket number one. Bucket number two is really the CS org. And I think this is the untapped market for a lot of B2B companies or B2B SaaS companies like us, which is, hey, how do you turn everybody who's touching a customer into a seller? I'll give you a great example. We have a professional services team in our market. It's all around what we call instructional design. So when customers basically buy our training software, they can buy these specialists and basically pay time and materials for them to actually help them create content for their training program. So imagine an SDR training program, we're helping create that content. Now, they're specialized in creating content, but then the mindset is, hey, how do you change them from not just delivering the service, but also giving them ideas on other upsells and cross-sells you could give to that client? So that's kind of the second big bucket in the kind of always be selling kind of mindset. And then lastly, this is probably the least tapped, is I would call it is the marketing organization. That marketing organization, especially your customer facing individuals, like people running community, people running customer education sits in here sometimes, also sits in CS. But how do you get them really engaging with clients as well and always having that seller's mindset? So for example, your customer reference specialists, or the people that actually build your customer community, they're always engaging with clients. How do you make it so that they can also help sell additional services for you as well?
Okay. So let's go back into the top there, the BDRs and the AEs. I mean, for a lot of BDRs, like you said, they probably say, yeah, I'm already doing that. I'm selling, but the mindset they need to shift. What are some of the challenges you're seeing with the mindset, the limited thinking mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I'll take one step back and then zoom in just a little bit. When we were in this heyday, and again, this is, I mean, you might have a different interpretation of it, but let's call it, even when we were founded, 2015 through late 2021, early 22, heyday of everyone's buying everything, right? Especially in that 20 and 21 period post-COVID, it was just, the market was just saturated with money. Everyone was buying everything, right? The mindset there on the BDR side was essentially kind of more of a army approach. Let me just keep throwing infantry out there, not super specialized, and it's all about volume, right? Let's just get waves and waves of kind of effort and volume and activity out in the market. Now, the recommendation I've seen with a lot of peers and even ourselves is taking more of a Navy SEAL approach, right? You now have fewer resources. You need to be super targeted, and the quality needs to jump up. And so the thing we look for internally is, hey, is your conversion rate to actual op improving? Are you doing more creative type of outbound rather than just straight up phone and email activity, right? Are you getting really deep in your value propositions, getting creative in ways to reach out to those potential prospects? And so that's the big mindset shift we're having now is, hey, move from an army into more of a Navy SEAL concept and get hyper specialized. So really hone your message, understand the message, and again, make sure that you're taking more of a direct approach versus a spray and pray approach, which actually worked fine in the upswing of the market.
Yeah, no, go back to that, and I agree with you there. And I feel like we're using the term like purposeful or purpose-driven like marketing, or I mean a sales outreach, because again, if I go my inbox right now, I probably have like maybe 6 at least quick questions, emails that are coming in, and they're the spray and pray email. And I love this quick question subject line; it works a lot. But with that, the replies are horrendous. That you're probably not getting a whole bunch of reply, because I know that this message is going out to everyone. Even if it's something that could be beneficial to me, it's not propelling me to reply. Comparatively, if you were to send me a message that, I'm hyper focused, you did some research on LinkedIn, you saw some changes within our organization, you see some shift in the market that I may not pay attention to, and then you pinpoint to me on that, there's a more higher probability that I'll reply to that and to take the appointment, because of the simple fact that that quality is there, and it's directly towards me and towards my business, and something that we need to fix or can work on going into challenging rough waters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll give you an example of that. It's not even
Sure.
just the reply to the meeting you got to improve. It's also like the people who are on the edge of taking the meeting and getting really creative around that. I'll give you a really good example. We had one of our top BDRs who I reached out to. She was using User Gems. If you've heard of, I don't know if you heard of User Gems yourself, but they basically surface up people who have used your product at other companies. A really cool tool. They basically farm your kind of Salesforce instance to see who's moved. And they give you these signals to go reach out to people who have moved. So we reached out to someone who had just moved. He actually responded because he knew of the brand, but he didn't want to take the meeting. And in a typical world, he's actually asking some hard, challenging questions. In a typical world, he'd be like, oh, actually, that's probably a meeting. Just get on the phone and just book it on the AE's calendar. But in this new world, you need to sell him more. So this BDR slacked everyone and said, hey, I need some objection handles and some specifics. And actually slacked her back later in the day. I go, look, this is going to be a hard meeting to get. Why don't you offer a call with the CEO? Because he's worked with that client before, and he loved to just get on a call and just have an introductory call, see if there's anything interesting, and then take the meeting. And so it's just a really interesting mindset of, hey, the traditional tactics of, hey, you got them a little bit, just get the meeting on the calendar isn't going to work anymore. You need to get creative of like literally, hey, put a CEO on the call just to get that meeting is worth it these days to get more creative in your approach, not just moving into just the spray and pray approach now.
Yeah, I love it. It's like it's an upgrade. It is a upgrade from where we were. This is 2.0 or 3.0, wherever we are in the world and sales existence. But it's very fascinating with that. Again, not just get the appointment, which is really awesome. Love your take on that, but help the right people to come in and to help make it happen. So love it. So we change that mentality. And you mentioned this too, AEs. We need to change. AEs can change their mindset too. Give me a couple thoughts on that. What can I do as an AE to adjust my mindset to accommodate to continually selling?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's a switch. I actually really like this switch where, I grew up selling at Cisco Systems. And this was back in my first job was in 2007. So it's been a little while. And I remember
full cycle selling,
full cycle selling. And I think Manny Medina from Outreach had a great LinkedIn post, I think 2 weeks ago now, where he talked about, hey, the full stack AE is back. And he was totally right, where the full stack AE sources, they set their own meetings, they're having their meetings, they're closing, like they're doing everything. And I think he was so spot on that mindset is back. And you need that to supplement, even if you have amazing inbound, amazing BDR team, amazing CS team who's finding upsells in this market, you need as much pipeline as you can get because your close rates are going to take longer and they're going to be worse. And so the full stack AE concept is back. Now, as a CEO, I feel like it's back, but has that trickled down to every AE in most B2B SaaS companies? Probably not. I think the reality is hitting them now. Like you look at, unfortunately speaking, like with the Salesforce layoff, I think Benioff had a great quote that 95% of Salesforce's revenue comes from 50% of the reps. And you could bet that those 50% of those reps are thinking in a full stack mindset right now, right? And so the best AEs I've ever worked with are thinking full stack. And so again, I think moving forward, this means, hey, setting expectations on outbound pipeline generation, outbound activity, upsell generation within your accounts, cross-sell generation within your accounts. But again, setting the targets, not just rewarding people who might have been lucky walking into a territory and they're not doing much. You really have to set the goals even for your best reps to make sure they're hitting those activity and outbound metrics.
I think that's a great seller right there, right? I mean,
yes.
I mean, not that you want to put on extra work that you don't necessarily have to do, but I feel that it's important nowadays that like you're saying with the full stack AE, that if you need to be, enough that you can have conversations with prospects, whether that's through LinkedIn or a phone call, they can help to trigger. And, if you grab my attention through an outreach, I expect to be able to continue that conversation with you, because clearly you understand something that I may not. You can bring people in, but I need to have that trusted guide, because I'm going to be scrutinizing if I should even make this purchase in the first place. And you're handing me off like a hot potato. It makes it a little bit more difficult for me to be able to connect with you, that bond. But I mean, there's so many different facets towards it. I'm gonna look up that post now. You got my attention.
Yeah, it reminds me back in the day when I worked at Cisco. I remember they just gave you, and Cisco had every account in the world, right? So you actually can't outbound into other accounts. And so they said, hey, Ted, here's 14 accounts. You can't touch any other account in the world. These are your 14, and you have no BDR, you have no inbound leads. Go figure it out. Here's a $6 million, at the time, I remember it was a $6.1 million hardware quota. And it was nuts. I was like, there's no way I'm going to hit this number. And you just have to get really creative about how you outbound an accounts. And I remember one of the most creative things I'd done at the time was I would look through, I had basically no contacts in those 14 accounts either. I would look through support tickets and just like call people who are opening support tickets up and be like, hey, how's your level of service? I'm your Cisco support representative or account representative. And they would think I was support calling. But little did they know, I was actually the account executive on the account, figuring out what the heck was going on. And I just needed people to talk to me. Right. And so getting creative like that in this market, I think is going to be key.
Love it. We have so much to talk about, but we got 10 minutes to get this stuff. CS organization, they're touching base with the client. I think that segues perfectly into this. We didn't set that up, ladies and gentlemen, but it's just worked out great. But talk to me about how the CS org can really help with the selling.
Yeah, this topic's really interesting. I think you're going to see more of this, and we've done some unique stuff at WorkRamp, but I think the mindset shift is that your CS org is probably spending more time with your customers than your AE org or your sales org. And so you should train them and invest in them as much, if not more, than your sales org in terms of teaching them how to sell. And so I'll give you a great example. When I look at, in this recent market, when I look at we call them a client outcomes manager, which is essentially like a CSM/AM hybrid. So when you look at their calendars, jam-packed in this market, whereas you look at AE's calendar, pretty full, and they're getting more full recently, but as CSM or COM, as we call them, jam-packed. And so think about all that face time with clients, and they should be opening and closing every meeting with a little bit of discovery or a little bit of selling, right? Like, hey, what's changed in your environment? What are some new stakeholders? Have you looked at this other product? Let me maybe rope in the AE to come tell you more about that. But the big thing here is basically pushing a sales mindset into all parts of that org. Now, let me dive one level deeper into that. Most CS orgs are segmented into different functions. Like at WorkRamp for us, we have an implementation team. So they start with a client who then hands it off into the COM team, client outcomes, which essentially manages the account and also does renewals. We have the professional services team, that instructional design team I talked about earlier. And then you also have support. That also all falls under the CS umbrella. And think about each of those teams interacts with clients. We just talked about COMs, but think about IMs, the implementation managers. They're the first ones engaging with clients. They could ask any question in the world. So if you didn't sell your full product suite, it's very innocent of them to be like, hey, did you ever look at these other products while they're doing the install? That's a great way to cross sell. Or, hey, why is only one department using this and not others? You can innocently ask those questions and deliver more value to clients. So that's a great example where a lot of, I think, companies aren't really thinking about the top of the customer lifecycle implementation. And then lastly, on the bottom of the cycle, which is more support, you're also not thinking there as much. You see a lot of people ask support questions, and support has been trained to kind of give, let's call it more cookie cutter or robotic answers to churn through the queue. Whereas, hey, if you give them a little bit of a sales lens, they could have a sales view on the questions being asked and even propose, hey, this might actually be an upsell or cross-sell opportunity for your team. And so they could still provide a great level of service, but also give signals back to your organization on, hey, there are upsell opportunities in an account.
That's one of the best things that I loved when I was a full cycle seller. We did have a little inside sales, but one of the best things that I enjoyed was that when I worked closely as the AE with one of the representatives there, the department head. It wasn't a huge org, but I was able to work with that team and build a conversation, build enough relationship that, like what you're saying, it inadvertently they saw what we were doing and helped them as sales, and vice versa. We saw what their concerns were and helped us, and that changed the game for me as a seller, because I was selling to the people that the customer service reps were telling us, like, these people are the best. They don't call. They don't have problems. They don't have issues. Sell more companies like that. And it was the ones that would buy. So,
yes.
anyways, it's a great symbiotic relationship. And that's why I feel like when you're hitting that, everyone is selling, everyone is working together to fulfill the end result, service more client, and obviously bring more revenue, and so everyone can feed, right?
Yeah. And I asked this question during our sales leadership forecast meeting last week. And it was a very innocent question. I said, hey, do all the AEs jump on your account syncs with your clients, which is run by the CS team? And the answer was no. It wasn't a default behavior. And I was like, well, why isn't it a default behavior? Like, don't they want to know? They're like, well, they want to go sell new business, and hey, they want to go outbound. That's fine too. But my advice back to them, especially in this time in the market, is you should be getting in as much FaceTime with clients as possible. If that means just joining a 30-minute biweekly sync with a client talking about implementation, that's totally fine. Be a fly on the wall, but be there present, know what's going on in the accounts, that in the future, you can look for those opportunities to upsell and cross-sell, obviously, as long as you're delivering value.
Love it, man. So good. Last area, the market org. And I think we joked about something about pipeline with this one. But the market organization, talk to me about how we need to help them to become sellers.
Yeah, I'll keep this one pretty quick. This is really just the marketing org that's working with clients. You probably have a handful of marketers that are field facing. They're either running customer advisory boards, they're running customer reference case studies, they're helping with referrals. And sometimes you can have this mindset, hey, I'm a marketer, I'm doing my job, I'm not going to go out of my lane and do something differently, right? Like, hey, if I see a sales opportunity, kind of ignore it and just focus on, let's say, getting that referral. It's a great way to change their mindset, as well as, hey, as you're doing these customer-facing touch points, look for other opportunities to continue to cross-sell and upsell into the client base. And so, for example, if you're talking with a client and you're actually writing up a case study with them, you might actually read what you're writing in that case study and say, hey, actually, you kind of mentioned these areas. Why isn't this other department using the product? Or, hey, have you thought about this other service that we offer while you're delivering that marketing asset out to the field? And so it's just a great example. Again, back to that original theme. You have your sales org selling, you have your CS org selling, and you have your marketing org selling. That's kind of the triumvirate of people that are really touching your client base and just enabling them extremely well to continue selling to your client base.
Bro, Ted, you came and you gave way more than I asked for. This is good. This is amazing. Anyone listening to this episode today is walking away with straight value. And I think from all this, helping us to understand how we can be able to become more of a seller, whether it's the AE, the BDRs listening to this, or the sales leaders, or even if it's like, Rev Ops or any other departments here. And there's so much that we need to do, understanding there's so much we can do right now. and it's not too complicated to be able to all be in sync and to be able to sell effectively. If folks are listening to this, they want to get in touch with you, want to learn about what you're doing, and to better learn from you, Ted, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
For sure. Personally, you could just reach out to me on LinkedIn, just Ted Blosser, and you search for WorkRamp. And then if you want to learn more about the service, just workramp.com.
Ted, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time coming on the show today.
All right, Donald, great being here.
Hey, if you haven't done so already, connect with Ted. Have you? You can find the link down below in the show notes. Click on that link there, man. Get on LinkedIn, follow him, and connect with him. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist. He comes with a wealth of knowledge from his days at Box to Stuff Box, and also as a Cisco rep. A lot of great insights that he brings to the table, and I feel that you can apply and can help you all around. If this is your first time listening to our podcast or watching one of our videos, go ahead and subscribe. Tell somebody else about it as well so they can subscribe and find benefit from this show. You know, I'm all out here doing two things. One, building pipeline and teaching you how to do that. And two, helping you to move those deals down the pipe and to convert a high percentage of those deals. We want to give you all of that. Find out more about our LinkedIn program and see how it can best help you and to help you to generate more appointments each week. Also, speaking about LinkedIn, we have other folks here on this podcast who love to bring value to you. And we have some sponsors, and I would highly recommend you connect with those folks as well, because many of them have insights and tools and strategies that you can take advantage of. I've negotiated and connect with them. So if they're going to be bringing something to the table, I want them to give you some, something good that you can apply. So at least you can test out. So I want you to go and check out the sponsors and see some of the cool things that they're sharing. I'm done. I'm just pumped. I'm excited. I'm stoked for what's up ahead for you. I'm stoked for the opportunities. Yes, things may not be as pretty as we would like them to be, but you know what? You got this. You didn't come this far to only come this far, and we're here to help you. We're here to help you to do so, to thrive and to succeed. Thanks, Ted. Connect with him on the show. Connect with him from the links in the show notes. I want you to raise your level of thinking. I want you to go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.